Hello everybody, this is Leena from Lukunurkka. As you may have noticed, I made few videos last year, but then I kinda stopped. And that was because I had some personal issues and felt really tired of doing anything creative and basically on my own. And I didn't even read much, let alone make videos about them. Well, it's not like I didn't read anything. This side was my constant companion. Thank you, fanfics, for being short and sweet. The ultimate comfort food for reading. But anyway, so when the year came close and I saw everybody else doing their wrap-ups, I was like, do I even want to do mine? Because my last few months have been total shit. And then I was like, wait a second. I have been reading a lot, but it just happened before that. So I went back to look at my file where I kept all the details of my reading, and I noted that really I had nothing to feel bad about. I have been reading constantly last year. It was not last part of the year. So I have this really ambitious goal of 125 books, but yeah, that did not happen. But still, I read 105, and for some reason I forgot about that. So I went back and looked at my stats. I had this Excel table I fill out with everything I read. As you can see, the biggest group has been fantasy, which is not surprising because that is one of my favorites, and I don't see this changing anytime soon. I still think the balance is better than it has been before. The literary fiction is, I think, a little bit misleading here because these are not my terms. I use the Finnish terms kaunokirjallisuus when the book does not have any specific genre. I don't think that literary fiction is that. I'm not sure, it may be. So everything that didn't fit in this specific genre goes into literary fiction, unless it can be counted as classic when because I counted those as different things, which is weird here. For example, in the other group there are a few skiffy books, and I know at least one of them can be considered classic, so there's a little bit leeway for one or another. I had few challenges and goals for this year, and one of them was about different genres. I wanted to read more classic books, notably more classic books from my list. And I think most, if not all, of the classics I have there are from that group, so I think I did pretty damn good. And then there are nonfiction, which was my another goal to read more nonfiction books. The biography should be inside there, but so anyway, 17 books that can be counted nonfiction. That's great. I think more than double or triple the amount that was last year. And in the other category, there are detective books, horror, sci-fi, and other that are clearly genre books that are not fantasy, basically. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Next thing I've quickly looked into was what was the intended audience, and most of the books I read have been made for adults. I think that's easily explained when you look at the last graph and see how many classics and non-fiction books. I guess there's literary fiction that is for young adults, but yeah. So most of the reading I have been doing is geared towards adults, and that's kind of what I expected. I don't read much young adult. I read few middle grade or children's books. That 15 is there mainly because I read all of the Moomin books in the spring. So yeah, but mostly I read books made for adults. Next one. This is another curiosity. Most of the books I read are still classic paper format, but then there are a few that I have listened, and that is something I have been increasing this year intentionally. I've been trying to listen more audiobooks. I found that I really like listening to podcasts, and the few that I was following, I was kind of caught up with. So then this was kind of easy way to get into. Few comics, this is mean the paper versions. Few I read straight from my computer. PDF because I don't have a Kindle. I was like, what is the word for this? I don't care. PDF format. And that webcomic, that part is lying because I read massive amount of webcomics. But the thing is that counts only those that are finished. So I can tick those off. I have read this. I am following lots of webcomics, and I enjoy it. I should make a video about the next one. Let's see about the authors of the books I have read. So they're almost 50-50. If you ask me, I could have sworn I read more female than male. I don't know why, but I just have a feeling. But now when I think about it, I guess it's also because I read lots of classics. When I look for books outside of that list I have, I tend to grab female authors. So that's why I thought that I always chose female authors. And then I look at the crafts and I'm like, why is so many males there? That looks weird. But anyway, I still think that this is much better because I know that last year I had I would say last year I had like 3/4 male authors and one unknown because the book is so goddamn old you don't know. Okay, and now there's one thing that most people don't keep track of because they don't, need to. That's not relevant to them, but I wanted to. I want to read Finnish books that are written in Finnish. So this is an interesting thing because I both like to read Finnish books and I want to support translating books to Finnish because we are a small language. I want to do my part to keep it alive. Thank you very much. But also sometimes I feel like when people, especially about the classics, and they talk about the rhythm of the language and images the language brings and how it was poetic or something like that. And that is something that you can most appreciate if it's in the original language. So here's the question. Do I read in Finnish or do I try to read the originals? I think that's quite a good balance there in the end. Oh, a note. Some of the translation are from English to Finnish, but there are lots of that aren't. Okay, so I know that there are books from Spanish and French that are translated to Finnish that are in that category. So that makes me feel better because I could not read them anyway in the original language. It's the English to Finnish translation that has the potential of which one to choose. Actually, I never read a book that was originally in Finnish and then translated to English. That could be weird. And here's the interesting thing. I know there has been discussion about this category. About should you categorize people? Should you put people's sexual and ethnicity identity in a box instead of asking them? And apparently I'm saying I'm doing that. Mostly because I know that last year I read mostly male and I wanted to be conscious about it and I cannot be conscious if I do not know. Same way, I wanted to make sure I read books that are not written in UK or USA. And here's the result of me trying to read books outside of that comfort zone. There's as many books from Finland and from UK. And as I said in the language part, I am not gonna apologize for Finland because I want to support my home language. And actually I think quarter is not too much. Actually, I think it should be more. Given that I like fantasy, it's kind of unavoidable that there's lots of UK and USA. I know I'm doing better. The English-speaking countries are still a majority, which is something to try and get away from. But I think this graphics tells you something. But I prefer to look at the map version that I did. So what you can see here is that when I have read the book, I went to Goodreads and check what is the birth country. I do not say that the identity or nationality is that country because they can move away and in some cases they move away so young, or so they are not relevant anymore. But still, I chose that. I chose that because that was, first of all, easy, and I do not know what ethnicity or nationality they prefer to think. I cannot know that. So what I choose is to see the factual place they are born into. So that's it is. Mostly, like I said, this is mostly so I can be conscious of me trying to read books originating somewhere else than English-speaking countries. I'm doing better, but the UK is still kinda heavy. Oh, and I have friends that ask me that why are you trying to pick books from outside? Shouldn't it just come natural that you just pick what you want and it just happens to comes from all over? And I'm like, well, in ideal situation that would happen. But I make a same map of the books I read 2014, and it looked like this. Yeah, you can see the problem here? Sure you can. For some reason, this year there's lots less USA. I don't know why. So, nothing in South America, 1 in Africa, 2 in Asia, 1 in New Zealand, and even in Europe. Okay, there's lots of Finnish, so I like that. But even in Europe, there's like, what, 4, 5 authors that are not from UK. And I remember when I made this map and I was shocked. I was like, what the? I know for the fact that one reason is that for half of this year, I was in Canada. And of course, while I was in there, I read books from Canadian library. For some reason, I did not pick up Canadian books because I went straight to the comfort reading and pick up fantasy. And that's how USA centrism happened, I guess. But yeah, I said that I like this year better. This is not just I'm making a map and making the stats and trying to read outside of these 3 countries. But more of that when I did that, I saw different kind of stories. I saw different kind of environment. I saw different kind of life. And isn't that what the whole diversify your reading should be about? So I said I had few goals about reading more non-fiction and classic books. And here's my list for those. I note that I think I started with that, I read 10 both. And in both cases I read more, which is great. So that is kind of overview of my reading for 2015. So what I want to do this year? First of all, I'm making my number goal much lower. I don't need extra stress in my life. I think that my genre balance was good, so I try to keep that. I still want to do at least 10 non-fiction books and at least 10 classics. So I think those are good goals and I gonna keep them. I think I was doing really good at female-male balance there, because as I said, when I just went to library and wanted to pick a book, I picked up female authors. So I think that was good for me and I keep doing that. But I don't need to put a number on it. Same thing about a translation versus original language. I think I was pretty good picking up Finnish books. I did not have to put it as my goal. And as for where authors are originating stats, I think I will try to keep the amount of Finnish authors in around the same number. I tried to read more from other continents. The rest of Europe was fine. But then there are the rest of the continents, and even combined, they are not 1/4 of my reading. So I think I will try to be better in that respect. But as long as I don't go back to what 2014 looked like, I think I'm pretty good. Here was my very stat-based wrap-up of the 2015. I think that's all for now. Bye, and I try not to disappear again. See you later.